The rain hammered against the windows of Ethan Carter's suburban home, a relentless rhythm that seemed to echo the unease settling in his chest. He had just returned from a long day at work, his suit damp and clinging to his skin. The house was quiet, too quiet, as if it were holding its breath. He flicked on the lights, the sudden brightness doing little to dispel the creeping sense of dread. Ethan lived alone, had done so since his father passed away 2 years ago. His stepmother, Margaret, had moved out shortly after, leaving him the house. They had never been close. In fact, she had always seemed to resent him, though he could never understand why. His half-brother Daniel was the only family he felt connected to, but Daniel had been traveling for work and hadn't been around much lately. As Ethan hung up his coat, something caught his eye. A small, almost imperceptible glint of light near the bookshelf in the living room. He frowned, stepping closer. Nestled among the books was a tiny camera, its lens barely visible. His stomach dropped. Someone had been watching him. He yanked the camera free, his hands trembling as he examined it. It was sleek, modern, and clearly expensive. But who would plant a camera in his home? And why? His mind raced as he connected the device to his laptop, his fingers fumbling over the keys. The footage loaded, and Ethan's breath hitched. The video showed his living room, but something was off. The furniture was rearranged, and the clock on the wall displayed a date, 3 days from now. He leaned closer, his heart pounding. The camera angle shifted, and he saw himself walk into the frame. He watched in horror as his future self stumbled, clutching his chest, before collapsing to the floor. The screen went black. Ethan's mind reeled. This wasn't possible. The footage couldn't be real, but the details were too precise, too accurate to be a hoax. He rewound the video, watching it again and again, each time hoping he had missed something, some clue that would explain it away. But there was nothing. The camera was predicting his death. Over the next few days, Ethan became obsessed with the footage. He barely slept, barely ate, his every moment consumed by the terrifying certainty of what was coming. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a prank, a sick joke orchestrated by someone who knew his routines. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. The night before the date on the footage, Ethan's doorbell rang. He jumped, his nerves frayed to the breaking point. He peered through the peephole and saw Daniel standing on the porch, his face pale and drawn. Ethan opened the door, relief flooding through him at the sight of his brother. "Daniel, thank God," Ethan said, pulling him inside. "You won't believe what's been happening." Daniel's expression was grim. "I think I might. I got a call from Margaret. She said some disturbing things." Ethan's blood ran cold. "What did she say?" Daniel hesitated, then pulled out his phone. "She left me a voicemail. Listen." Ethan pressed play, and Margaret's voice filled the room, cold and calculating. "Daniel, I need you to stay away from Ethan. He's unstable, dangerous. I've been trying to help him, but he's beyond saving. If you care about him, you'll let him go." Ethan's hands clenched into fists. "She's lying. She's always hated me, but this is something else." Daniel nodded. "I know. That's why I came. I think she's behind the camera. I think she's trying to drive you insane." The pieces clicked into place. Margaret had planted the camera, had manipulated the footage to make him believe he was going to die. But why? What did she stand to gain? "We need to confront her," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "Tonight." The drive to Margaret's apartment was tense, the silence between the brothers heavy with unspoken fears. When they arrived, they found her waiting, as if she had been expecting them. She stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, a smug smile playing on her lips. "Ethan," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "I was worried about you. You look terrible." "Cut the act, Margaret," Ethan snapped. "We know what you've been doing. The camera, the footage, it's all you." Her smile faltered, but only for a moment. "I don't know what you're talking about." Daniel stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. We heard your voicemail. You've been trying to destroy him. Why? Margaret's eyes narrowed, her mask slipping to reveal the venom beneath. Because he doesn't deserve what he has. This house, your father's money, it should have been mine. But no, he left everything to you. And now, I'm going to take it all. Ethan's heart pounded. By driving me insane? Exactly, she said, her voice cold. I wanted you to suffer, to lose everything. And it worked, didn't it? You've been unraveling for days. Ethan felt a surge of anger, but Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder, calming him. It's over, Margaret. We know the truth. You're not going to win. Margaret laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You think you can stop me? It's too late. The footage was just the beginning. By tomorrow, Ethan will be dead, and everyone will believe it was suicide. Ethan's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Her smile returned, cruel and triumphant. You'll see. The brothers left Margaret's apartment, their minds racing. They knew they had to act fast. Daniel suggested they stage Ethan's death, using the footage to their advantage. If Margaret believed Ethan was dead, she would reveal her hand, and they could expose her. The next day, Ethan followed the plan. He recreated the scene from the footage, down to the smallest detail. When the moment came, he collapsed to the floor, just as he had seen in the video. Daniel called the police, his voice shaking with feigned grief. Margaret arrived soon after, her face a mask of false sorrow. But as she approached Ethan's lifeless body, her expression shifted to one of triumph. She knelt beside him, whispering, "Finally, it's mine." But then, Ethan's eyes snapped open. He grabbed her wrist, his grip like iron. Not quite. Margaret's scream was cut short as the police moved in, arresting her on the spot. The brothers had recorded everything, her confession clear and damning. In the aftermath, Ethan and Daniel stood together, watching as Margaret was led away. The weight of what they had been through hung heavy in the air, but there was also a sense of relief, of closure. "She's gone," Daniel said, his voice quiet. "It's over." Ethan nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something still lingered, something dark and unseen. As they turned to leave, he glanced back at the house, half expecting to see the glint of a camera lens. But there was nothing, only the shadows, stretching long in the fading light. And yet, as they drove away, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he was still being watched.